strengths within 3 to 5 years' time can be replaced by a robot, you really have to question how this world looks like. It could be the best world ever, and that's what I believe the utopia will look like. Because we were never made to wake up every morning and just, occupy 20 hours of our day with work, right? We're not made for that, but we've fit into that, system so well so far that we started to believe it's our life's purpose.
But we choose it. We willingly choose it. And if you give someone unlimited money, they still tend to go back to work or find something to occupy their time with.
They find something to occupy their time
Which
with.
is usually, for so many people, is building something, philanthropy, a
100%.
business.
So you build something. So between Sanad and I, Emma.love is not about making money. It's about finding true love relationships.
What is that? Sorry, just for context.
So
it's a business you're building, just for the audience context.
Yeah. So the idea here is, it might become a unicorn and be worth $1 billion, but neither I nor Sanad are interested. Okay, we're doing it because we can. Okay, and we're doing it because it can make a massive difference to the world.
And you have money, though.
It doesn't take that much money anymore to build anything in the world. This is labor arbitrage.
But to build something exceptional, it's still going to take a little bit more money than building something bad.
For the next few years.
So whoever has the capital to build something exceptional will end up winning.
So this is a very interesting understanding of freedom. Okay, this is the reason why we have the AI arms race. Okay, is that the one that owns the platform is going to be making all the money and keeping all the power. Think of it this way: when humanity started, the best hunter in the tribe could maybe feed the tribe for 3 to 4 more years, more days. And as a reward, he gained the favor of multiple mates in the tribe. That's it. The top farmer in the tribe could feed the tribe for a season more. Okay, and as a result, they got estates and and mansions and so on. The best industrialist in a city could actually employ the whole city, could grow the GDP of their entire country, and as a result, they became millionaires in the 1920s. The best technologists now are billionaires. Now, what's the difference between them? The tool. The hunter only depended on their skills, and the automation, the entire automation he had was a spear. The farmer had way more automation, and the biggest automation was what? The soil. The soil did most of the work. The factory did most of the work. The network did most of the work. And so that incredible expansion of wealth and power, and as well, the incredible impact that something brings is entirely around the tool that automates. So who's going to own the tool? Who's going to own the digital soil, the AI soil? It's the platform owners.
And the platforms you're describing are things like OpenAI, Gemini, Grok, Claude.
These are interfaces to the platforms. The platforms are all of the tokens, all of the compute that is in the background, all of the methodology, the systems, the algorithms. That's the platform, the AI itself. Yeah. Grok is the interface to it. But
I think this is probably worth explaining in layman's terms to people that haven't built AI tools yet, because I think to the listener, they probably think that every AI company they're hearing of right now is building their own AI. Whereas actually what's happening is there is really 5, 6, 7 AI companies in the world. And when I built my AI application, I basically pay them for every time I use their AI. So if Stephen Bartlett builds an AI at stephenbartlettai.com, it's not that I've built my own I've trained my own model. Really what I'm doing is I'm paying Sam Altman's ChatGPT every single time I do a call. I basically, I do a search or, I use a token. And I think that's really important because most people don't understand that. Unless you've built AI, you think, oh, look, there's all these AI companies popping up. I've got this one for my email. I've got this one for my dating. No. They're pretty much, I would hazard a guess that they're probably all at OpenAI at this point.
No, there are quite a few quite different characters and quite different.
But there's like 5 or 6.
There are 5 or 6 when it comes to language models.
Yeah.
Right. But interestingly, so yes, I should say yes to start, and then I should say, but there was an interesting twist with DeepSeek at the beginning of the year. So what DeepSeek did is they basically nullified the business model, if you want, in 2 ways. One is it was around a week or 2 after Trump stood with pride saying Stargate is the biggest investment project in the history and it's $500 billion to build AI infrastructure, and SoftBank and Larry Ellison and Sam Altman were sitting, and so, beautiful picture. And then DeepSeek R3 comes out. It does the job for 1/30 of the cost, okay? And interestingly, is entirely open source and available as an edge AI. So that's really, really interesting, because there could be now in the future, as the technology improves, the learning models will be massive, but then you can compress them into something you can have on your phone. And you can download DeepSeek literally offline on an off-the-network computer and build an AI on it.
There's a website that basically tracks the sort of cleanest apples to apples market share of all the website referrals sent by AI chatbots, and ChatGPT is currently at 79%, roughly about 80%. Perplexity is at 11%, Microsoft Copilot's at about 5%, Google Gemini is at about 2%, Claude's about 1%, and DeepSeek's about 1%. And really, like, the point that I want to land is just that when you hear of a new AI app or tool, or this one can make videos,
it's built on one of them.
It's basically built on one of these really 3 or 4 AI platforms that's controlled really by 3 or 4 AI, billionaire teams. And actually, the one of them that gets to what we call AGI first, where the AI gets really, really advanced, one could say is potentially going to rule the world as it relates to technology.
Yes, if they get enough head start. So I actually think that what I'm more concerned about now is not AGI, believe it or not. So AGI in my mind, and I said that back in 2023, right? That we will get to AGI. At the time, I said 2027. Now I believe 2026 latest. Okay. The most interesting development that nobody's talking about is self-evolving AIs. Self-evolving AIs is think of it this way. If you and I are hiring the top engineer in the world to develop our AI models, and with AGI, that top engineer in the world becomes an AI. Who would you hire to develop your next generation AI? That AI.
The one that can teach itself.
Correct. So one of my favorite examples is called Alpha Evolve. So this is Google's attempt to basically have 4 agents working together, 4 AIs working together, to look at the code of the AI and say, where are the performance issues? Then, an agent would say, what's the problem statement? What can I, what do I need to fix? One that actually develops the solution, one that assesses the solution. And then they continue to do this. And, Google, I don't remember the exact figure, but I think Google improved like 8% on their AI infrastructure because of Alpha Evolve, right? And when you really, really think, don't quote me on the number 8 to 10, 6 to 10, whatever. In Google terms, by the way, that is massive. That's billions and billions of dollars. Now, the trick here is this. The trick is, again, you have to think in game theory format. Is there any scenario we can think of where if one player uses AI to develop the next generation AI, that the other players will say, no, that's too much, takes us out of control? Every other player will copy that model and have their next AI model developed by an AI.
Is this what Sam Altman talks about, who's the founder of ChatGPT/OpenAI, when he talks about a fast takeoff?
I don't know exactly which you're referring to, but we're all talking about a point now that we call the intelligence explosion. So there is a moment in time where you have to imagine that if AI now is better than 97% of all code developers in the world, and soon will be able to look at its own code, own algorithms. By the way, they're becoming incredible mathematicians, which wasn't the case when we last met. If they can develop, improve their own code, improve their own algorithms, improve their own, network architecture or whatever, you can imagine that very quickly the force applied to developing the next AI is not going to be a human brain anymore. It's going to be a much smarter brain. And very quickly, as humans, like basically when we ran the Google infrastructure, when the machine said we need another server or a proxy server in that place, we followed. We never really, wanted to object or verify because, the code would probably know better because there are billions of transactions an hour or a day. And so very quickly, those self-evolving AIs will simply say, I need 14 more servers here. And we'll just, the team will just go ahead and do it.
I watched a video a couple of days ago where Sam Altman effectively had changed his mind, because in 2023, which is when we last met, he said the aim was for a slow takeoff, which is sort of gradual deployment. And OpenAI's 2023 note says a slower takeoff is easier to make safe, and they prefer iterative rollouts so society can adapt. In 2025, they changed their mind. And Sam Altman said he now thinks a fast takeoff is more possible than he did a couple of years ago, on the order of a small number of years rather than a decade. To define what we mean by a fast takeoff, it's defined as when AI goes from roughly human level to far beyond human very quickly, think months to a few years, faster than governments, companies, or society can adapt, with little warning, big power shifts, and hard to control. A slow takeoff, by contrast, is where capabilities climb gradually over many years with lots of warning shots. And the red flags for a fast takeoff is when AI can self-improve, run autonomous research and development, and scale with massive compute compounding gains, which will snowball fast. So, and I think from the video that I watched of Sam Altman recently, who again is the founder of OpenAI and ChatGPT, he basically says, and again, I'm paraphrasing here, I will put it on the screen. We have this community notes thing, so I'll write it on the screen. But he effectively said that whoever gets to AGI first will have the technology
to develop super intelligence,
where the AI can rapidly increase its own intelligence, and it will basically leave everyone else behind.
Yes. So that last bit is debatable, but let's just agree that. So in Alive, one of the posts I shared and got a lot of interest is I referred to the Altman as a brand, not as a human. Okay. So the Altman is that persona of a California disruptive technologist that disrespects everyone. Okay, and believes that disruption is good for humanity, and believes that this is good for safety. And like everything else, like we say, war is for democracy and freedom, they say developing, putting AI on the open internet is good for everyone, right? It allows us to learn from our mistakes. That was Sam Altman's 2023 spiel. And if you recall, at the time, I was like, this is the most dangerous, one of the clips that really went viral. You're so clever at finding the right clips is when I said...
I didn't do the clipping, mate.
Your team. Remember the clip where I said, we fucked up?
We always said, don't put them on the open internet until we know what we're putting out in the world.
I remember you saying that, yeah.
We fucked up on putting it on the open internet, teaching it to code, and putting, AI agents prompting other AIs. Now AI agents prompting other AIs are leading to self-developing AIs. And the problem is, of course, anyone who has been on the inside of this knew that this was just a clever spiel made by a PR manager for Sam Altman to sit with his dreamy eyes in front of Congress and say, we want you to regulate us. Now they're saying we're unregulatable, okay? And when you really understand what's happening here, what's happening is it's so fast that none of them has the choice to slow down. It's impossible. Neither China versus America or OpenAI versus Google. The only thing that I may see happening that that may differ a little bit from your statement is if one of them gets there first, then they dominate for the rest of humanity. That is probably true if they get there first within enough buffer. Okay, but the way you look at Grok coming a week after OpenAI, a week after Gemini, a week after Claude, and then Claude comes again, and then China releases something, and then Korea releases something. It is so fast that we may get a few of them at the same time or a few months apart, okay, before one of them has enough power to become dominant. And that is a very interesting scenario. Multiple AIs, all super intelligent.
It's funny, I got asked yesterday. I was in Belgium on stage. There was, I don't know, maybe 4,000 people in the audience, and a kid stood up and he was like, "You've had a lot of conversations in the last year about AI. Like, why do you care?" And I don't think people realize how, even though I've had so many conversations on this podcast about AI,
Haven't made up your mind?
I have more questions than ever.
I know.
And it doesn't seem that anyone can satiate my
Anyone
questions.
that tells you they can predict the future is arrogant.
Yeah.
It's never moved so fast. Okay.
It's nothing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And by the time that we leave this conversation and I go to my computer, there's going to be some incredible new technology or application of AI that didn't exist when I woke up this morning. That creates probably another paradigm shift in my brain. Also, people have different opinions of Elon Musk, and they're entitled to their own opinion. But the other day, only a couple of days ago, he did a tweet where he said, "At times, AI existential dread is overwhelming." And on the same day, he tweeted, "I resisted AI for too long, living in denial. Now, it is game on." And he tagged his AI companies. I don't know what to make of those tweets. I don't know. And I try really hard to figure out if someone like Sam Altman has the best interests of society at heart,
No.
or if these people are just
I'm saying that publicly. No. As a matter of fact, so I know Sundar Pichai. I
Who
work
is-
with CEO of Alphabet, Google's parent company. An amazing human being, in all honesty. I know Dennis Hassabis, amazing human being. Okay? These are ethical, incredible humans at heart. They have no choice. Sundar, by law, is demanded to take care of his shareholder value. That is his job.
But Sundar, you said you know him. You used to work at Google.
Yeah.
He's not going to do anything that he thinks is going to harm humanity.
But if he does not continue to advance AI, that by definition contradicts his responsibility as the CEO of a publicly traded company. He is liable by law to continue to advance the agenda. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Now, but he's a good person at heart. Demis is a good person at heart, so they're trying so hard to make it safe, okay, as much as they can. The reality, however, is the disruptor, the Altman as a brand, doesn't care that much.
How do you know that?
In reality, the disruptor is someone that comes in with the objective of, I don't like the status quo, I have a different approach. And that different approach, if you just look at the story, was we are a non-for-profit that is funded mostly by Elon Musk money, if not entirely by Elon Musk money.
So context here for people that might not understand. OpenAI, the reason I always give context is, funnily enough, I think I told you this last time, I went to a prison where they play the Diary of a CEO.
No way.
So they play the Diary of a CEO, and I think it's 50 prisons in the UK to young offenders.
And no violence there?
Well, I don't know. I can't tell you whether violence has gone up or down. But I was in the cell with one of the prisoners, a young black guy, and I was in his cell for a little while.
Wonderful.
I was reading through his business plan, etc. And I said, you know what? You need to listen to this conversation that I did with Mo Gordat. So he has a little screen in his cell. So I pulled it up, our first conversation, and I said, you should listen to that one. And he said to me, I can't listen to that one because you guys use big words.
Oh.
So ever since that day, which was about
I noticed that
4
about
days,
you. Yeah.
4 years ago, sorry.
Yeah.
I've always, whenever I hear a big word, I think about this kid.
Yeah.
And I say,
really
give
lovely.
context.
Yeah.
So even with you're about to just explain what OpenAI is. I know he won't know what OpenAI's origin story was. That's why I'm just
I think that's a wonderful practice. In general, by the way, even being a non-native English speaker, you'll be amazed how often a word is said to me, and I'm like, don't know what that means.
So I've actually never said this publicly before, but I now see it as my responsibility to keep the the drawbridge to accessibility of these conversations down for him. So whenever there's a word that at some point in my life I didn't know what it meant, I will go back. I will say, what does that mean?
I think that I've noticed that in the more and more in your podcast, and I really appreciate it. And you also show it on the screen sometimes. I think that's wonderful. I mean, the origin story of OpenAI is, as the name suggests, it's open source. It's for the public good. It was intended, in Elon Musk's words, to save the world from the dangers of AI. Right, so they were doing research on that, and then, there was the disagreement between Sam Altman and Elon. Somehow, Elon ends up being out of OpenAI. I think there was a moment in time where he tried to take it back, and the board rejected it, or something like that. Most of the top safety engineers, the top technical teams in OpenAI left in 2023, 2024. Openly saying we're not concerned with safety anymore. It moves from being a non-for-profit to being one of the most valued companies in the world. There are billions of dollars at stake, right? And if you tell me that Sam Altman is out there trying to help humanity, let's suggest to him and say, hey, do you want to do that for free? We'll pay you a very good salary, but you don't have stocks in this. Saving humanity doesn't come at $1 billion valuation. Or, of course, now tens of billions or hundreds of billions. And see, truly, that is when you know that someone is doing it for the good of humanity. Now, the capitalist system we've built is not built for the good of humanity. It's built for the good of the capitalist.
Well, he might say that releasing the model publicly, open sourcing it, is too risky, because then bad actors around the world would have access to that technology. So he might say that closing OpenAI, in terms of not making it publicly viewable, is the right thing to do for safety.
We go back to gullible cheerleaders, right? One of the interesting tricks is of lying in our world is everyone will say what helps their agenda. Follow the money, okay? You follow the money and you find that, at a point in time, Sam Altman himself was saying it's open AI, okay? My benefit at the time is to give it to the world so that the world looks at it. They know the code, if there are any bugs and so on. True statement. Also a true statement is if I put it out there in the world, a criminal might take that model and build something that's against humanity as a result. Also true statement. Capitalists will choose which one of the truths to say. Right? Based on which part of the agenda, which part of their life today they want to serve, right? Someone will say, do you want me to be controversial? Let's not go there. But if we go back to war, I'll give you 400 slogans. 400 slogans that we all hear that change based on the day and the army and the location. They're all slogans. None of them is true. You want to know the truth, you follow the money. Not what the person is saying, but ask yourself, why is the person saying that? What's in it for the person speaking?
And what do you think's in it for ChatGPT, Sam Altman?
Hundreds of billions of dollars of valuation.
And do you think it's that or power?
The ego of being the person that invented AGI, the position of power that this gives you, the meetings with all of the heads of states, the admiration that gets it is
intoxicating.
100%. Okay, and the real question, this is a question I ask everyone. Did you see? You didn't. Every time I ask you, you say you didn't. Did you see the movie Elysium?
No, you'd be surprised how little movie watching I do. You'd be shocked.
There are some movies that are very interesting. I use them to create an emotional attachment to a story that you haven't seen yet, because you may have seen it in a movie. Okay, Elysium is a society where the elites are living on the moon. Okay, they don't need peasants to do the work anymore, and everyone else is living down here. Okay, you have to imagine that. If, again, game theory, you have to picture something to infinity, to its extreme, and see where it goes. And the extreme of a world where all manufacturing is done by machines, where all decisions are made by machines, and those machines are owned by a few, is not an economy similar to today's economy. that today's economy is an economy of consumerism and production. You know, in Alive, I call it the invention of more. The invention of more is that post-World War II, as the factories were rolling out things and prosperity was happening everywhere in America, there was a time where every family had enough of everything. But for the capitalists to continue to be profitable, they needed to convince you that what you had was not enough, either by making it obsolete like fashion or like, you know, a new shape of a car or whatever, or by convincing you that there are more things in life that you need, so that you become complete. Without those things, you don't. And that invention of more gets us to where we are today, an economy that's based on production consumed. And if you look at the US economy today, 62% of the US economy, GDP, is consumption. It's not production. Okay? Now, this requires that the consumers have enough purchasing power to buy what is produced. And I believe that this will be an economy that will take us, hopefully, in the next 10, 15, 20 years and forever. But that's not guaranteed. Why? Because on one side, if UBI replaces purchasing power, so if people have to get an income from the government, which is basically taxes collected from those using AI and robots to make things, then the mindset of capitalism, labor arbitrage, means those people are not producing anything and they're costing me money. Why don't we pay them less and less? Maybe even not pay them at all. And that becomes Elysium, where you basically say, you know, we sit somewhere protected from everyone. We have the machines do all of our work, and those need to worry about themselves. We're not going to pay them UBI anymore, right? And you have to imagine, this idea of UBI assumes this very democratic, caring society. UBI in itself is communism. Think of the ideology between at least socialism. The ideology of giving everyone what they need, that's not the capitalist, democratic society that the West advocates. So those transitions are massive in magnitude. And for those transitions to happen, I believe the right thing to do, when the cost of producing everything is almost zero because of AI and robots, because the cost of harvesting energy should actually tend to zero once we get more intelligent to harvest the energy out of thin air, then a possible scenario, and I believe a scenario that AI will eventually do in the utopia, is, yeah, anyone can get anything they want. Don't overconsume. We're not going to abuse the planet's resources, but it costs nothing. So like the old days where we were hunter-gatherers, you would, forage for some berries and you'll find them ready in nature, okay? We can, in 10 years' time, 12 years' time, build a society where you can forage for an iPhone in nature. It will be made out of thin air. Nanophysics will allow you to do that, okay? But the challenge, believe it or not, is not tech. The challenge is a mindset. Because the elite, why would they give you that for free? Okay? And the system would morph into, no, hold on. We will make more money. We will be bigger capitalists. We will feed our ego and hunger for power more and more. And for them, give them UBI. And then 3 weeks later, give them less UBI.
Aren't there going to be lots of new jobs created, though? Because when we think about the other revolutions over time, whether it was the Industrial Revolution or other sort of big technological revolutions, in the moment we forecasted that everyone was going to lose their jobs, but we couldn't see all the new jobs that were being created.
Because the machines replaced the human strength at a point in time, and very few places in the West today will have a worker carry things on their back and carry it upstairs. The machine does that work, correct?
Yeah.
Similarly, AI is going to replace the brain of a human. And when the West, in its interesting virtual colonies, that I call it, basically outsourced all labor to the developing nations, what the West publicly said at the time is, we're going to be a services economy. We're not interested in making things and stitching things and so. Let the Indians and Chinese and Bengalis and Vietnamese do that. We're going to do more refined jobs, knowledge workers, we're going to call them. Knowledge workers are people who work with information and click on a keyboard and move a mouse and sit in meetings, and all we produce in the Western societies is what? Blah, 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 words. Right? Or designs maybe sometimes, but everything we produce can be produced by an AI. So if I give you an AI tomorrow, where I give you a piece of land, I give the AI a piece of land and I say, here are the parameters of my land, here is its location on Google Maps. Design an architecturally sound villa for me. I care about a lot of light and I need 3 bedrooms. I want my bathrooms to be in white marble, whatever. And the AI produces it like that. How often will you go to an architect and say, right? So what will the architect do? The best of the architects will either use AI to produce that, or you will consult with them and say, hey, I've seen this, and they'll say, it's really pretty, but it wouldn't feel right for the person that you are. Yeah, those jobs will remain, but how many of them will remain? How often do you think, how many more years do you think I will be able to create a book that is smarter than AI? Not many. I will still be able to connect to a human. You're not going to hug an AI when you meet them like you hug me, right? But that's not enough of a job. So why do I say that? Remember, I asked you at the beginning of the podcast to remind me of solutions. Why do I say that? Because there are ideological shifts and concrete actions that need to be taken by governments today. Rather than waiting until COVID is already everywhere and then locking everyone down, governments could have reacted before the first patient, or at least at patient 0, or at least at patient 50. They didn't. What I'm trying to say is there is no doubt that lots of jobs will be lost. There's no doubt that there will be sectors of society where 10, 20, 30, 40, 50% of all developers, all software, all graphic designers, all online marketers, all assistances are going to be out of a job. So are we prepared as a society to do that? Can we tell our governments there is an ideological shift? This is very close to socialism and communism, okay? And are we ready from a budget point of view, instead of spending $1 trillion a year on arms and explosives and autonomous weapons that will oppress people because we can't feed them? Can we please shift that? I did those numbers. Again, I go back to military spending because it's all around us. $2.71 trillion. 2.4 to 2.7 is the estimate of 2024.
How much money we're spending on military?
On military equipment, on things that we're going to explode into smoke and death. Extreme poverty worldwide. Extreme poverty is people that are below the poverty line. Extreme poverty everywhere in the world could end for 10 to 12% of that budget. So if we replace our military spending 10% of that to go to people who are in extreme poverty, nobody will be poor in the world. Okay, you can end world hunger for less than 4%. Nobody would be hungry in the world. If you take again 10 to 12% universal healthcare, every human being on the planet would have free healthcare for 10 to 12% on what we're spending on war. Now, why do I say this when we're talking about AI? Because that's a simple decision. If we stop fighting, because money itself does not have the same meaning anymore, because the economics of money is going to change, because the entire meaning of capitalism is ending, because there is no more need for labor arbitrage because AI is doing everything. Just with the $2.4 trillion we save in explosives every year, in arms and weapons, just for that, universal health care and extreme poverty, you could actually, one of the calculations is you could end or combat climate change meaningfully for 100% of the military budget.
But I'm not even sure it's really about the money. I think money is a measurement stick of power, right?
Exactly. It's printed on demand.
So even in a world where we have super intelligence and money is no longer a problem,
Correct.
I still think power is going to be insatiable for so many people. So there'll still be war because, you know,
There will be
I
more
want the
war, in my
strongest.
view.
I want the strongest AI. I don't want my.
And I don't want, you know what Henry Kissinger called them? The eaters.
The eaters.
Yeah. Brutal as that sounds.
What is that? The people at the bottom of the socioeconomic.
That don't produce but consume. So if you had a Henry Kissinger at the helm, and we have so many of them, what would they think? Like,
I don't
why,
even know who that is.
Why a very prominent military figure in the U.S.
Okay.
history. You know, why would we feed 350 million Americans? America will think. But more interestingly, why do we even care about Bangladesh anymore? If we can't make our textiles there, or we don't want to make our textile there.
Do you know, I imagine throughout human history, if we had podcasts, conversations would have been warning of a dystopia around the corner. You know, when they heard of
100%.
technology and the internet, they would have said, oh, we're
100%.
finished. And when the tractor came along, they would have said, oh, God, we're finished because we're not going to be able to farm anymore. So is this not just another one of those moments where we couldn't see around the corner, so we forecasted unfortunate things?
You could be. I'm begging that I'm wrong. Okay? I'm just asking if there are scenarios that you think that can provide that. You know, Mustafa Sulaiman you hosted him here.
I did, yeah, he was on the show.
The Coming Wave.
Yeah.
And he speaks about pessimism aversion. Okay? That all of us, people who are supposed to be in technology and business and so on, we're always supposed to, you know, stand on stage and say, the future's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
You know, this technology I'm building is going to make everything better. One of my posts in Alive was called The Broken Promises. How often did that happen? Okay? How often did social media connect us? And how often did it make us more lonely? How often did mobile phones make us work less? That was the promise. That was the promise. The early ads of Nokia were people at parties. Is that your experience of mobile phones? And I think the whole idea is we should hope there will be other roles for humanity, by the way. Those roles would resemble the times where we were hunter-gatherers, just a lot more technology and a lot more safety.
Okay, so this sounds good.
Yeah.
This is exciting. So I'm gonna get to go outside more, be with my friends more.
100%.
Fantastic.
And do absolutely nothing.
Well, that doesn't sound fantastic.
No, it does. Be forced to do absolutely nothing. For some people, it's amazing. For you and I, we're going to find a little carpentry project and just do something.
Speak for yourself. People are still going to tune in.
Okay. Correct. Yeah. And people are going to tune in.
Do you think they will? I'm not convinced they will.
And for as long.
Will you guys tune in? Are you guys still going to tune in?
I can let them answer. I believe for as long as you make their life enriched.
But can an AI do that better?
Without the human connection.
Comment below. Are you going to listen to an AI or the Diary of a CEO? Let me know in the comment section below.
Okay. Remember, as incredibly intelligent as you are, Steve, there will be a moment in time where you're going to sound really dumb compared to an AI. And I will sound completely dumb.
Yeah.
The depth of analysis and gold nuggets. I mean, can you imagine two super intelligences deciding to get together and explain string theory to us? They'll do better than any physicist in the world because they possess the physics knowledge and they also possess social and language knowledge that most deep physicists don't.
I think B2B marketers keep making this mistake. They're chasing volume instead of quality. And when you try to be seen by more people instead of the right people, all you're doing is making noise, but that noise rarely shifts the needle, and it's often quite expensive. And I know, as there was a time in my career where I kept making this mistake, that many of you will be making it too. Eventually, I started posting ads on our show sponsors platform, LinkedIn, and that's when things started to change. I put that change down to a few critical things. One of them being that LinkedIn was then, and still is today, the platform where decision makers go to, not only to think and learn, but also to buy. And when you market your business there, you're putting it right in front of people who actually have the power to say yes. And you can target them by job title, industry, and company size. It's simply a sharper way to spend your marketing budget. And if you haven't tried it, how about this? Give LinkedIn ads a try, and I'm going to give you a $100 ad credit to get you started. If you visit linkedin.com/diary, you can claim that right now. That's linkedin.com/diary. I've really gone back and forward on this idea that even in podcasting, that all the podcasts will be AI podcasts, or I've gone back and forward on it. And where I landed at the end of the day was that there'll still be a category of media where you do want lived experience on something.
100%.
For example, like you want to know how the person that you follow and admire dealt with their divorce.
Yeah, or how they're struggling with AI.
For example, yeah, exactly. But I think things like news, there are certain situations where just like straight news and straight facts and maybe a walk through history may be eroded away by AIs. But even in those scenarios, there's something about personality. And again, I hesitate here because I question myself. I'm not in the camp of people that are romantic, by the way. I'm trying to be as orientated towards whatever is true, even if it's against my interests. And I hope people understand that about me. Like, because even in my companies, we experiment with like disrupting me with AI, and some people will be aware of those experiments. I guess
There will be a mix of all. You can't imagine that the world will be completely just AI and completely just podcasters. You know, you'll see a mix of both. You'll see things that they do better, things that we do better.
Yeah.
The message I'm trying to say is we need to prep for that. We need to be ready for that. We need to be ready by, talking to our governments and saying, hey, it looks like I'm a paralegal, and it looks like all paralegals are going to be, financial researchers or analysts or graphic designers or, call center agents. It looks like half of those jobs are being replaced already.
You know who Jeffrey Hinton is?
Oh, Jeffrey, I had him on the documentary as well. I love Jeffrey.
Jeffrey Hinton told me...
Trained to be a plumber.
Really?
Yeah.
100% for a while.
And I thought he was joking.
100%.
And so I asked him again, and he looked me dead in the eye and told me that I should train to be a plumber.
100%. So it's funny, huh? Machines replaced labor, but we still had blue collar. Then, the refined jobs became white collar information workers.
What's the refined jobs?
You don't have to really carry heavy stuff or deal with physical work. You sit in an office and sit in meetings all day and blabber, useless shit, and that's your job.
Yeah.
Okay. And those jobs, funny enough, in the reverse of that, because robotics are not ready yet. Okay. And I believe they're not ready because of a stubbornness on the robotics community around making them humanoids. Okay. Because it takes so much to perfect a human-like action at proper speed. You could, have many more robots that don't look like a human, just like a self-driving car in California, okay? That does already replace drivers. But they're delayed. So the the replacement of physical manual labor is going to take 4 to 5 years before it's possible at the quality of the AI replacing mental labor now. And when that happens, it's going to take a long cycle to manufacture enough robots so that they replace all of those jobs. So that cycle will take longer. Blue collar will stay longer.
So I should move into blue collar and shut down my office?
I think you're not the problem.
Okay, good.
Let's put it this way. There are many people that we should care about, that are a simple travel agent or an assistant, that will see, if not replacement, a reduction in the number of pings they're getting. Simple as that. And someone in, ministries of labor around the world needs to sit down and say, what are we going to do about that? What if all taxi drivers and Uber drivers in California get replaced by self-driving cars? Should we start thinking about that now, noticing that the trajectory makes it look like a possibility?
I'm going to go back to this argument, which is what a lot of people will be shouting. Yes, but there will be new jobs. Or,
as I said, other than human connection jobs, name me one.
So I've got 3 assistants, right? Sophie, Lee, and B. And okay, in the near term, there might be, with AI agents, I might not need them to help me book flights anymore. I might not need them to help do scheduling anymore. Or even I've been messing around with this new AI tool that my friend built. And you basically, when me and you are trying to schedule something like this today, I just copy the AI in and it looks at your calendar, looks at mine and schedules it for us. So there might not be scheduling needs, but my dog is sick at the moment. And as I left this morning, I was like, damn, he's like really sick and I've taken him to the vet over and over again. I really need someone to look after him and figure out what's wrong with him. So those kinds of responsibilities of like care.
I don't disagree at all. Again,
I'm not going to be, I don't know how to say this in a nice way, but my assistants will still have their jobs, but I as a CEO will be asking them to do a different type of work.
Correct. So this is the calculation everyone needs to be aware of. A lot of their current responsibility, whoever you are, if you're a paralegal, if you're whatever, will be handed over. So let me explain it even more accurately. There will be 2 stages of our interactions with the machines. One is what I call the era of augmented intelligence. So it's human intelligence augmented with AI doing the job. And then the following one is what I call the era of machine mastery. The job is done completely by an AI without a human in the loop. Okay? So in the era of augmented intelligence, your assistances will augment themselves with an AI to either be more productive, okay, or, interestingly, to reduce the number of tasks that they need to do. Correct? Now, the more the number of tasks get reduced, the more they'll have the bandwidth and ability to do tasks like take care of your dog, right? Or tasks that, basically is about meeting your guests or whatever. Human connection, life connection. But do you think you need 3 for that? Or maybe now that some tasks have been, outsourced to AI, will you need 2? You can easily calculate that from call center agents. So from call center agents, they're not firing everyone, but they're taking the first part of the funnel and giving it to an AI. So instead of having 2,000 agents in a call center, they can now do the job with 1,800. I'm just making that number up. Society needs to think about the 200.
And you're telling me that they won't move into other roles somewhere else?
I am telling you, I don't know what those roles are.
Well,
I think we should all be musicians, we should all be authors, we should all be artists, we should all be entertainers, we should all be comedians, these are roles that will remain. We should all be plumbers for the next 5 to 10 years. Fantastic, okay? But even that requires society to morph. And society is not talking about it. Okay? I had this wonderful interview with friends of mine, Peter Diamandis and some of our friends, and they were saying, the American people are resilient. They're going to be entrepreneurs. I was like, seriously? You're expecting a truck driver that will be replaced by an autonomous truck to become an entrepreneur? Like, please put yourself in the shoes of real people. Right? Do you expect a single mother who has 3 jobs to become an entrepreneur? And I'm not saying this is a dystopia. It's a dystopia if humanity manages it badly. Why? Because this could be the utopia itself, where that single mother does not need 3 jobs. Okay? If our society was just enough, that single mother should have never needed 3 jobs. Right? But the problem is our capitalist mindset is labor arbitrage, is that I don't care what she goes through. If you're generous in your assumption, you'd say, because, of what I've been given, I've been blessed. Or if you're mean in your assumption, is going to be because she's an eater. I'm a successful businessman. The world is supposed to be fair. I work hard, I make money, we don't care about them.
Are we asking of ourselves here something that is not inherent in the human condition? What I mean by that is the reason why me and you are in my office here, we're on the 4th or 3rd floor of my office in central London. Big office, 25,000 square feet with lights and internet connections and Wi-Fi's and modems and AI teams downstairs. The reason that all of this exists is because something inherent in my ancestors meant that they built and accomplished and grew. And that was like inherent in their DNA. There was something in their DNA that said, we will expand and conquer and accomplish. So they've passed that to us because we're their offspring. And that's why we find ourselves in these skyscrapers.
There is truth to that story. It's not your ancestors, right?
What is it?
It's the media brainwashing you.
Really?
100%.
But if you look back before times of media, the reason why Homo sapiens were so successful was because they were able to dominate other tribes.
No.
Through banding together and communication, they conquered all these other whatever came before Homo sapiens.
Yeah, so the reason humans were successful, in my view, is because they could form a tribe to start. It's not because of our intelligence. I always joke and say Einstein would be eaten in the jungle in 2 minutes, right? You know, the reason why we succeeded is because Einstein could partner with a big guy that protected him while he was working on relativity in the jungle, right? Now, the further than that, so you have to assume that life is a very funny game because it provides, and then it deprives, and then it provides, and then it deprives. And for some of us, in that stage of deprivation, we try to say, okay, let's take the other guys. You know, let's just go to the other tribe, take what they have. Or for some of us, unfortunately, we tend to believe, okay, you know what, I'm powerful. F the rest of you, I'm just going to be the boss. Now, it's interesting that you position this as the condition of humanity. If you really look at the majority of humans, what do the majority of humans want? Be honest. They want to hug their kids. They want a good meal. They want good sex. They want love. They want, for most humans, don't measure on you and I. Okay? Don't measure by this foolish person that's dedicated the rest of his life to try and warn the world around AI or, solve love and relationships. That's crazy. And I will tell you openly, and you met Hannah, my wonderful wife. It's the biggest title of this year for me is, which of that am I actually responsible for? Which of that should I do without the sense of responsibility? Which of that should I do because I can? Which of that should I ignore completely? But the reality is, most humans, they just want to hug their loved ones. Okay? And if we could give them that without the need to work 60 hours a week, they would take that for sure. Okay? And you and I will think, but life will be very boring. To them, life will be completely fulfilling. Go to Latin America. Go to Latin America and see the people that go work enough to earn enough to eat today and go dance for the whole night. Go to Africa, where people are sitting literally on, sidewalks in the street and completely full of laughter and joy. We were lied to, the gullible majority, the cheerleaders. We were lied to believe that we need to fit as another gear in that system. But if that system didn't exist, none of us will go wake up in the morning and go like, oh, I want to create it. Totally not. I mean, you've touched on it many times today. We don't need, most people that build those things don't need the money.
So why do they do it though? Because Homo sapiens were incredible competitors. They outcompeted other human species effectively. So what I'm saying is that competition not inherent in our wiring, and therefore is it wishful thinking to think that we could potentially pause and say okay, this is it, we have enough now, and we're going to focus on just enjoying?
In my work, I call that the MAD spectrum. Okay? mutually assured prosperity versus mutually assured destruction. Okay? And you really have to start thinking about this, because in my mind, what we have is the potential for everyone. I mean, you and I today have a better life than the Queen of England 100 years ago. Correct?
Yeah.
Everybody knows that. And yet that quality of life is not good enough. The truth is, just like you walk into an electronics shop and there are 60 TVs and you look at them and you go like, this one is better than that one, right? But in reality, if you take any of them home, it's superior quality to anything that you'll ever need, more than anything you'll ever need. That's the truth of our life today. The truth of our life today is that there isn't much more missing.
No.
Okay, and when Californians tell us, oh, but AI is going to increase productivity and solve this, and nobody asked you for that. Honestly, I never elected you to decide on my behalf that getting a machine to answer me on a call center is better for me. I really didn't. Okay, and because those unelected individuals are making all the decisions, they're selling those decisions to us through what? Media. Okay, all lies from A to Z. None of it is what you need. And interestingly, you know me, I this year I failed, unfortunately. I won't be able to do it, but I normally do a 40 days silent retreat in nature. Okay? And you know what? Even as I go to those nature places, I'm so well trained that unless I have a Waitrose nearby, I'm not able to. Like I'm in nature, but I need to be able to drive 20 minutes to get my rice cakes. Like what? What? Who taught me that this is the way to live? All of the media around me, all of the messages that I get all the time. Try to sit back and say, what if life had everything? What if I had everything I needed? I could read, I could do my handcrafts and hobbies. I could, fix my, restore classic cars, not because I need the money, but because it's just a beautiful hobby. I could, build AIs to help people with their long-term committed relationships, but really price it for free. What if? What if? Would you still insist on making money? I think no. I think a few of us will still, and they will still crush the rest of us. And hopefully soon the AI will crush them. Right? That is the problem with your world today. I will tell you hands down. The problem with our world today is the A in face RIPs. It's the A in face RIPs. It's accountability. The problem with our world today, as I said, the top is lying all the time. The bottom is gullible, cheerleaders, and there is no accountability. You cannot hold anyone in our world accountable today. Okay? You cannot hold someone that develops an AI that has the power to completely flip our world upside down. You cannot hold them accountable and say, why did you do this? You cannot hold them accountable and tell them to stop doing this. You can look at the world, the wars around the world, hundreds of thousands of people are dying. Okay, and International Court of Justice will say, "Oh, this is war crimes." You can't hold anyone accountable. Okay, you have 51% of the U.S. today saying, "Stop that." 51% change their view that that their money shouldn't be spent on wars abroad. Okay, you can't hold anyone accountable. Trump can do whatever he wants. He starts tariffs, which is against the Constitution of the US, without consulting with the Congress. You can't hold him accountable. They say they're not going to show the Epstein files. You can't hold them accountable. It's quite interesting. In Arabic, we have that proverb that says, the highest of your horses you can go and ride. I'm not going to change my mind. Okay? And that's truly...
What does that mean?
So basically, people in the old Arabia, they would ride a horse to exert their power, if you want. So go ride your highest horse. You're not going to change my mind.
Oh, okay.
Right? And the truth is, I think that's what our politicians today have discovered, what our oligarchs have discovered, what our tech oligarchs have discovered, is that I don't even need to worry about the public opinion anymore. Okay? At the beginning, I would have to say, this is for democracy and freedom, and I have the right to defend myself, and all of that crap. And then eventually, when the world wakes up and says, no, hold on, you're going too far, they go like, yeah, go ride your highest horse. I don't care. You can't change me. There is no constitution. There is no ability for any citizen to do anything.
Is it possible to have a society where, like the one you describe, where there isn't hierarchies? Because it appears to me that humans assemble hierarchies very, very quickly, very naturally. And the minute you have a hierarchy, you have many of the problems that you've described, where there's a top and a bottom, and the top have a lot of power and the bottom are.
So the mathematically is actually quite interesting, what I call the baseline relevance. So think of it this way. Say the average human is an IQ of 100.
Yeah.
Okay? I tend to believe that when I use my AIs today, I borrow around 50 to 80 IQ points. I say that because I've worked with people that had 50 to 80 IQ points more than me. And I now can see that I can sort of stand my place. 50 IQ points, by the way, is enormous because IQ is exponential. So the last 50 are bigger than my entire IQ, right? If I borrow 50 IQ points on top of, say, 100 that I have, that's 30%. If I can borrow 100 IQ, that's 50%. That's basically doubling my intelligence. But if I can borrow 4,000 IQ points in 3 years' time, my IQ itself, my base, is irrelevant. Whether you are smarter than me by 20 or 30 or 50, which in our world today made a difference, in the future, if we can all augment with 4,000, I end up with 4,100, another ends up with 4,130, really doesn't make much difference, okay? And because of that, the difference between all of humanity and the augmented intelligence is going to be irrelevant. So all of us suddenly become equal. And this also happens economically. All of us become peasants. And I never wanted to tell you that because I think it will make you run faster, okay? But unless you're in the top 0.1%, you're a peasant. There is no middle class. There is, if a CEO can be replaced by an AI, all of our middle class is going to disappear.
What are you telling me?
All of us will be equal. And it's up to all of us to create a society that we want to live in.
Which is a good thing.
100%. But that society is not capitalism.
What is it?
Unfortunately, it's much more socialism. It's much more hunter-gatherer. Okay? It's much more communion-like, if you want. This is a society where humans, connect to nature, connect to the land, connect to knowledge, connect to spirituality. Where all that we wake up every morning worried about doesn't feature anymore. And it's a better world, believe it or not.
And
we have to transition to it.
Okay, so in such a world, which I guess is your version of the utopia that we can get to, when I wake up in the morning, what do I do?
What do you do today?
I woke up this morning, I spent a lot of time with my dog because my dog is sick.
You're going to do that too?
Yeah, I was stroking him a lot and then I fed him and he was sick again and I just thought, oh God, so I spoke to the vet.
You spend a lot of time with your other dog, you can do that too.
Okay.
Right?
But then I was very excited to come here, do this, and after this I'm going to work. It's Saturday, but I'm going to go downstairs in the office and work.
Yeah, so 6 hours of the day so far are your dogs and me.
Yeah.
Good, you can do that still.
And then build my business.
You may not need to build your business.
But I enjoy it.
Yeah, then do it. If you enjoy it, do it. You may wake up and then, instead of building your business, you may invest in your body a little more, go to the gym a little more, go play a game, go read a book, go prompt an AI and learn something. It's not a horrible life. It's the life of your grandparents. It's just 2 generations ago where people went to work before the invention of more. Remember, people who started working in the 50s and 60s, they worked to make enough money to live a reasonable life, went home at 5 p.m., had tea with their loved ones, had a wonderful dinner around the table, did a lot of things, for the rest of the evening and enjoyed life.
Some of them.
Yeah,
In the 50s and 60s, there were still people that were.
correct. And I think it's a very interesting question. How many of them? And I really, I actually wonder if people will tell me, do we think that 99% of the world cannot live without working, or that 99% of the world would happily live without working?
What do you think?
I think if you give me other purpose, we defined our purpose as work. That's a capitalist lie.
Was there ever a time in human history where our purpose wasn't work?
100%.
When was that?
All through human history until the invention of more.
I thought my ancestors were out hunting all day.
No, they went out hunting once a week. They fed the tribe for the week. They gathered for a couple of hours every day. Farmers, saw the seeds and waited for months on end.
What did they do with the rest of the time?
They connected as humans. They explored. They were curious. They discussed spirituality and the stars. They lived. They hugged. They made love. They lived.
They killed each other a lot.
They still kill each other today.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
To take that out of the equation.
But if you look at how
and
they...
by the way, that statement, again, one of the 25 tips I talk about to tell the truth is words mean a lot. No, humans did not kill each other a lot. Very few generals instructed humans, or tribe leaders instructed lots of humans to kill each other. But if you leave humans alone, I tend to believe 98% of the people I know, let me just take that sample, wouldn't hit someone in the face. And if someone attempted to hit them in the face, they'd defend themselves but wouldn't attack back. Most humans are okay. Most of us are wonderful beings. Most of us have no, most people don't need a Ferrari. They want a Ferrari because it gets sold to them all the time. But if there were no Ferraris, or everyone had a Ferrari, people wouldn't care. Which, by the way, that is the world we're going into. There will be no Ferraris, or everyone had Ferraris, right? The majority of humanity will never have the income on UBI to buy something super expensive. Only the very top guys in Elysium will be, driving cars that are made for them by the AI, or not even driving anymore, okay? Or, again, sadly, from an ideology point of view, it's a strange place, but you'll get communism that functions. The problem with communism is that it didn't function. It didn't provide for its society. But the concept was, you know what? Everyone gets their needs. And I don't say that supportive of either society. Huh? I don't say that because I dislike capitalism. I always told you, I'm a capitalist. I want to end my life with 1 billion happy. And I use capitalist methods to get there. The objective is not dollars. The objective is number of happy people.
Do you think there'll be... My girlfriend, she's always bloody right. I've said this a few times on this podcast. If you've listened before, you've probably heard me say this. I don't tell her enough in the moment, but I figure out from speaking to experts that she's so fucking right. She predicts things before they happen. And one of her predictions that she's been saying to me for the last 2 years, which in my head I've been thinking now, I don't believe that. But now maybe I'm thinking she's telling the truth. I hope she's going to listen to this one. Is she keeps saying to me, she's been saying for the last 2 years, she goes, there's going to be a big split in society. And the way she describes it is she's saying, there's going to be two groups of people. The people that split off and go for this almost hunter-gatherer, community-centric, connection-centric utopia. And then there's going to be this other group of people who pursue, the technology and the AI and the optimization and get the brain chips. Because, there's nothing on earth that's going to persuade my girlfriend to get the computer brain chips.
100%.
But there will be people that go for it. And they'll have the highest IQs and they'll be the most productive by whatever objective measure of productivity you want to apply. And she's very convinced there's going to be this splitting of society.
Yeah. So there was I don't know if you had Hugo de Garis here.
No.
Yeah. A very, very, very renowned, eccentric computer scientist who wrote a book called The Arctic War. And the Arctic War was basically around, how it's not going to be a war between humans and AI. It will be a war between people who support AI and people who sort of don't want it anymore. Okay, and it will be us versus each other, saying, should we allow AI to take all the jobs, or should we, some people will support that very much and say, yeah, absolutely. And so, we will benefit from it. And others will say, no, why? We don't need any of that. Why don't we keep our jobs and let AI do 60% of the work and all of us work 10-hour weeks? And it's a beautiful society. By the way, that's a possibility. So a possibility, if society awakens, is to say, okay, everyone still keeps their job, but they're assisted by an AI that makes their job much easier. So it's not, this hard labor that we do anymore, right? It's a possibility. It's just a mindset that says, in that case, the capitalist still pays everyone. They still make a lot of money. The business is really great, but everyone that they pay has purchasing power to keep the economy running, so consumption continues, so GDP continues to grow. It's a beautiful setup. But that's not the capitalist labor arbitrage.
But also, when you're competing against other nations,
and other competitors and other businesses.
Whichever nation is most brutal and drives the highest gross margins, gross profits, is going to be the nation that
So there are
wins.
examples in the world. This is why I say it's the map-mad spectrum. There are examples in the world where when we recognize mutually assured destruction, okay, we decide to shift. So nuclear threat for the whole world makes nations work together, right? By saying, hey, by the way, proliferation of nuclear weapons is not good for humanity. Let's all of us limit it. Of course, you get the rogue player that doesn't want to sign the agreement and wants to continue to have that weapon in their arsenal. Fine, but at least the rest of humanity agrees that if you have a nuclear weapon, we're part of an agreement between us. Mutually assured prosperity, is the CERN project. CERN is too complicated for any nation to build it alone. But it is really, a very useful thing for physicists and for understanding science. So all nations send their scientists, all collaborate, and everyone uses the outcome. It's possible. It's just a mindset. The only barrier between a utopia for humanity and AI and the dystopia we're going through is a capitalist mindset. That's the only barrier. Can you believe that? It's hunger for power, greed, ego.
Which is inherent in humans.
I disagree.
Especially humans that live on other islands.
I disagree. If you take a poll across everyone watching, okay, would they prefer to have a world where there is one tyrant, running all of us? Or would they prefer to have a world where we all have harmony?
I completely agree, but they're two different things. What I'm saying is, I know that that's what the audience would say they want, and I'm sure that is what they want. But the reality of human beings is, through history, proven to be something else. Like, if think about the people that lead the world at the moment, is that what they would say?
Of course not.
And they're the ones that are influencing people.
Of course not. But you know what's funny? I'm the one trying to be positive here, and you're the one that has given up on human.
It's not. Do you know what it is? It goes back to what I said earlier, which is the pursuit of what's actually true, irrespective of how uncomfortable it is.
I'm with you 100%. That's why I'm screaming for the whole world, because still today, in this country that claims to be a democracy, if everyone says, hey, please sit down and talk about this, there will be a shift, there will be a change.
AI agents aren't coming. They are already here. And those of you who know how to leverage them will be the ones that change the world. I spent my whole career as an entrepreneur regretting the fact that I never learned to code. AI agents completely change this. Now, if you have an idea and you have a tool like Replit, who are a sponsor of this podcast, there is nothing stopping you from turning that idea into reality in a matter of minutes. With Replit, you just type in what you want to create, and it uses AI agents to create it for you. And now I'm an investor in the company, as well as them being a brand sponsor. You can integrate payment systems or databases or logins, anything that you can type. Whenever I have an idea for a new website or tool or technology or app, I go on replit.com and I type in what I want: a new to-do list, a search